Hey everyone, so I'm doing a study of a frog here. This is on the tail of a bunch of other studies that I've been doing over the last week or so, particularly focusing on translucency and how light behaves when interacting with translucent objects. And I found studying glass frogs is really good for getting a bit of an understanding. Obviously, you need to do more comprehensive study to really get a full-on grasp of how light works when interacting with translucent objects, but I think these glass frogs are a good place to start with and a good challenge, especially if you've got a bit more experience under your belt dealing with like painting and various lighting effects. I suppose if you wanted to study something more simple, like those little jelly lollies that you can buy in packets, they're a good place to begin with because it's just the one object. Whereas these frogs, you're dealing with the skin, the muscles, and the bones, which I've found all have various levels of translucency. But I think it's even if it's not something you're really adamant about fully understanding, I think it's just something to get a grasp on at least, insofar as you're just able to identify various lighting effects as you kind of see them in the world. Plus, it's also fun to challenge yourself and get outside your comfort zone when it comes to art. So basically, what I've done so far on this piece was started off with the background, just get that coloured in, because I found studying pictures of these frogs is that the background really plays into how they look. So I painted that in first and then just started blocking in different colours as I saw them. And I think one note that I've made for myself is that painting the background first before you start colouring the rest of the animal in this case gives you a reference point for the rest of the colours that you should be using. I found particularly when working with colour is that the way your eyes and brain read colour is in contrast to other colours around it, and it does take a while to be able to train your eye to read colour accurately. And I find it's just an ongoing process. You can never really be 100% accurate, but with training you can obviously become more and more precise as you go along. And I'm particularly proud as an artist that I don't color pick from the source material. I just been able to train myself to a degree to be able to just read color as I see it. And what I found is that there's a lot of power and usefulness in going more toward the desaturated colors. So you have your like greens, blues, and yellows, and whatever, all the different hues. But there's a lot of usefulness in the more desaturated versions of those colors and just the appearance they take on. So with this piece in particular, it was geared more toward the blues, greens, and purples, and there were some seemingly orangey and yellow parts. And I found that they tended to be more toward desaturated greens. So, just your perception of colour. Well, you really need to have a good understanding of how your perception of colour works to be able to read colour accurately. And, like I said before, I'm, still learning a lot and don't have it fully down pat, but I think that's just one tip that I've found to be really useful, is that there's a lot of power in the more desaturated versions of colours. Anyway, at this point in the drawing, I'm just kind of touching things up and kind of getting it to a point where I'm happy with it. Just working on the eye and starting to work on some of the final details. And here I'm just doing all the spots on the frog, making it look like it has chickenpox. That's about it, but I'll put a link in the low bar to where you can find the rest of the images of the frogs that I've done. Anyway, cheers.